Hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Nicholas Montez. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back here together again. And in today's video, we're going to be doing something a little fun today. Today, we're going to be ranking all 61 Disney animated feature films from the worst to the best. This time we're doing a ranking because I wanted to do a tier list to make it easier, but I guess ranking is all we could really do, but before we get started with this list, I'm doing this in honor of Strange World coming out on Disney Plus, since I finally was able to see it because I wasn't able to watch it when it first came out in theaters. But before we get started with the list, I need to go over the film, just show the film that I haven't seen, and then we'll go on with the ranking. Alright, now let's get on with the ranking. Alright, so as the first film that I saw of this, well, not the first film, but the first one we're talking about here, Saludos Amigos. Man, this is not a good movie. It is just a story that is filmed like a documentary, but trying to be a story about South Americans, and it doesn't really work all that much, at least for me. So for me, it's not really even good. The shorts with Donald and Goofy don't even save it. So overall, it's just a bland movie. Now for me, not only is this really a bad Disney film, but this is also a very silly film where you have a bunch of these cows doing a bunch of karate chop action, while at the same time being voiced by a bunch of different people, like Roseanne from the show Roseanne. I can't remember any other actors. I think Jennifer Tilly is in here too. And it's just such a dumb story with these cows doing these very weird things and horses. And it's like, it is so stupid, so dumb. At the same time, I kind of have fun with it, but it's just not a good movie at all. And I do not like it at all. Now, when I first entered this film, I was like, okay, I kind of heard some good things about this movie. Let's see how it goes. And we enter the movie, and first off, the look of the animation in this film, I think actually looks cool. Besides that, this movie is bland. The characters are not even careable. I don't really like the story or care for it. And they do this weird cliche thing where they just find all these ways to have all these characters combined in the story together, and it's just not a good story. Now, I guess you could say they do kind of base it in on reality, with focusing on this homeless man in New York, since there are homeless people in New York, and he's trying to do stuff to get money. It's kind of a clever storyline, now that I think about it, but besides that, it's not a good film, and it's not exactly a film where you're like, oh, I like that story, and I like these characters now. It's not really anything like that, and I feel like other films were able to do that, and you were actually able to like them. Now, if I'm being honest, this movie just feels like a ripoff of Fantasia, except even Fantasia is not even that good, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But for me, this film, I just do not think works. The only good thing really about this film is the animation, but that's all I can really say about this movie, is that the animation is good. So, some scenes are kind of artistically well done, but other than that, the movie is just bland and just follows a similar formula, and that's why I don't really like much of the wartime era, to be honest. Now, at first, I was like, okay, I'm not really sure why everybody's hating on this movie, because, yeah, the animation is pretty bad, especially for the time it came out, along with Meet the Robinsons. But I'm gonna be honest, and I was gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna lie, this actually is a pretty good film. Like, it is exploring a character that is doing baseball stuff, but then it focuses on this alien invasion storyline that is like this sort of fish sort of thing. Like, what? And it just does this whole weird transition that I'm not the biggest fan of. It was really bad. And some of the jokes in here, I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of laugh at some of the humor. Especially when Chicken Little was like, who we talking about? I laugh at that every single time I hear it. It just cracks me up every single time. But at the same time, besides a couple funny stuff in it, it's not a very good film. The animation's pretty bad, especially for the time it came out. I think they actually mentioned some Disney films in here. I'm not quite sure. But I remember I actually had a Chicken Little toy, I remember, when I was a little kid. I actually have a picture where I was holding a Chicken Little toy. I wish I could show you it, but that's pretty much all I remember of this movie. That it had some funny moments, but the story and characters were all bad. Plus, the character designs were bad, too. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is Fantasia so low? Look, I understand that this is a artistic and animation masterpiece. It's a masterpiece in animation and art. When it comes to the actual story itself, it's not good. It just tells these, I would say that besides the Mickey Mouse short, which it has a character that I enjoy, and that story has been told many times in pop culture, and it's been referenced, and it's like, once you see the sorcerer's hat from Mickey, you can tell, oh yeah, we know that. But like, no one else is gonna remember the dinosaurs or the little pixies. No one's gonna remember any of that. And so it's like, I feel like that this should have just been a film. Like, I feel like you could have made a film that did a story with just artistic animation. You didn't actually have to make a movie that told many stories, animation stories, for 2 hours. That's too much. I'm not gonna sit through this again. And I'm like, I understand what Walt Disney was trying to do. He's trying to do something artistic and stuff, and you're seeing all these art stuff, but I cannot sit through this movie. It's too boring. Man, I'm never watching this movie again. I'm sorry. Now, Alice in Wonderland, I'm sorry, but I don't like, honestly. Now, I like the remake a little bit, but like, I can't really have fun with this film. If I'm being honest, I feel like I have a lot more fun with the Alice in Wonderland adaptations, like the ones that copy off the story and they mimic their characters, much more than actually the Disney movie of Alice in Wonderland itself. And usually the stories that are from Disney based off of the fairy tales, they're usually the best. Cinderella, Snow White, Pinocchio, they're usually the best. This one, however, just was not it. It did not hit for me. I did like the guy that played Steve. What's his name? The guy that played Ka and Pooh. I don't remember his name, but I liked him as Cheshire Cat. He was probably the best character of the film. I did like Mad Hatter a little bit, and maybe the bunny. I forgot his name. The rabbit. I forgot his name. I did like the Queen of Hearts. Every time she screams, it's funny. And I did like this kind of cool theme where it's like not everything is the way it used to be and stuff like that. It was a nice little idea for the film, and that's what was getting me excited for the movie. But it's like it didn't work out so well, so it kind of came down a little bit below on the list for me. Now, if I'm going to be honest, there's things I did like about this movie. I think the first thing I really liked was just the animation, but besides that, the characters and story, I just could not really get interest into. The fact that you had these lemurs adopting a dinosaur was just so weird. Like, why are lemurs adopting a predator that could probably kill them? And, like, the story, like, honestly, I don't even remember the movie. I saw it, like, back in January. And it was not the best film. It was kind of boring, to be honest. And, like I said, the only good thing about the film was the animation. Some of the animation did look cool. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about Dinosaur. Now, Atlantis Lost Empire is another film that I think is a film that did not really work for me. Of course, I did like it a little bit, but it was not the best Disney film. It had some cool action, but at the same time, it just kind of felt like a story that was similar to like Pocahontas and maybe a little bit of Avatar, where there's these people that find out that there's this new country, and they want to try and steal their gold. But then they realize that there's nothing there, and the guys just want to help and protect it. And I guess you could say it's kind of cool in the way that happens, but it's not executed very well. So I did like our two main leads here. I did like the guy played by Michael J. Fox. He was pretty cool to hear his voice and animation. Besides Stuart Little, man, it's kind of crazy what's going on with him right now. But overall, not the best Disney film, though. Now, this is a film that I can definitely say I actually do kind of like. Granted, it's not the greatest Disney movie ever, but it works for what it's going for, you know? It tells two stories of, Inchabod and Mr. Toad that I think actually works, where you have the Toad story, where it kind of is like a detective story, and then you have Inchabod, where he's just this clever guy, has W-Riz, and then you bring in the Headless Horseman and everything, and it's just a nice little story. And I would say that of the wartime era, which I kind of made a mistake on this, which next time when I do this list, which will be a year from now, I'll definitely be updating this list to putting it above, because there's another film that I'm going to talk about in this from the wartime era. I would say this is definitely one of the best films in the wartime era, but that doesn't mean it's one of the best Disney films. Now we have Fun and Fancy Free. I think that this is a nice little addition of shorts. At first, I just knew about the Mickey and the Beanstalk short, but then they had a short before this where it was telling the story of a bear that was adopted in a circus, but then he broke out of the circus train to go fall in love with it, and then he fell in love with a girl bear, but then he met all these other bears, and it turned into these two fun stories that I enjoy, but they weren't anything special, but they were fun at the same time. Now, The Three Caballeros is another film that I did enjoy. It's, like I said, not the best, but it's still an enjoyable little piece of family entertainment that I enjoy. The song, the three caballeros, three gay caballeros, they say we are birds of a feather. I sing that every time when I'm going on my Disney trip, especially every time I go on the Three Caballeros ride in Epcot at Disney World. Personally, it's kind of fun. And I actually like how we explore Christmas in Mexico. That is something that I never really knew about. So that was kind of cool. And they didn't really know how to end it, so they just have Donald Duck chasing after South American women, which is kind of weird. But overall, I liked it. It was nice. It was fun. And though it's not the best. Okay, so I don't really know why I put The Sword in the Stone above these films, but The Sword in the Stone is just the worst telling of Arthur, of King Arthur and him pulling the sword out of the stone. It just like, it tells these stories of Arthur turning into animals and learning lessons, and then you have this big fight with Madame Mim and Merlin, which I think was actually a pretty cool fight, and it was actually a lot of fun to see them turn into different animals. See Madame Mim turn into a tiger, but then Merlin turn into a mouse. All that was kind of fun, and I just thought it was a nice little, cool little fight that they had. Personally, it just was not the best movie, and then he just pulls the sword out of the stone. Not the best one, and also he has like a whole history with characters that is just not, it's not the best enjoyable thing ever. But it was overall fun sometimes, I guess, I don't know. So Robin Hood, at first I was like, I do not like this movie, but at the same time, I actually kind of have fun with it. The action is pretty cool. It's fun to see Robin get away with stuff, but the biggest problem here is that it's not anything special. It's just fun to see Robin Hood do something fun, and it's enjoyable to see that, I guess. Now, once again, this is another film that I actually have learned to like a little bit. Obviously, once again, it is not a top-tier film whatsoever, but it is kind of enjoyable, and I did kind of enjoy it. And, I actually felt kind of bad for the little girl that, you know, was going through so much, and, you know, our little characters was kind of cool. And overall, it was honestly just kind of like a fun little movie. Now, once again, this is another film that I actually like a little bit more. And I think that the bird character, I forgot his name, who is like this pilot, but is very fat, a very fat bird. He was the best part of this film. I personally loved him. He was the best character of the film. The rest of the film was kind of trash, though it is still kind of good because of that bird character. Now, Treasure Planet, I liked it. It reminded me a lot like Atlantis, but at the same time, it also presented some characters that I liked. The animation was also pretty cool, and I think the relationship between Jim and Sully, or whatever his name is, I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. The soundtrack is also pretty cool, and the fact that, and also the voice cast is also cool. The movie itself is just a cool movie, though it's not my favorite movie. The Black Cauldron, I don't understand why everybody hates this movie so much. Yes, I understand it has, like, a couple of issues, but, like, it presents a story with a boy trying to rescue this pig, and then it introduces this girl, and then these other characters, and then it introduces these other characters. It's like, it probably does a little too much, but it's a fun little story that I enjoyed, to be honest. Alright, so now we are talking about the newest Disney animated feature film in the Disney animated feature film franchise, Strange World. And what are my thoughts on Strange World? It's a fine movie, you know? Personally, once again, like all the other Disney animated films that have come before this, the animation is spectacular. But if I'm being honest, this is not exactly another hit from Disney. This isn't another Encanto. This isn't another whatever they want to do. I think the interesting thing about this movie is they wanted to do a different type of animation style that looked different, where it's like you can't tell that that's from a Disney film. And I was like, because if you really think about it, you look at movies like maybe Encanto and Raya and the Last Dragon, And it's like, you can tell that those are movies from Disney. With this film, it doesn't really look like Disney. And I can kind of see that. But at the same time, the story itself of, this dad who disappeared because he was just so invested in being an explorer, while at the same time you have these kids and this other family and this other side of the mountain. I was thinking that they were getting introduced to Fiji from Moana, and the world that we're exploring here I thought was actually pretty interesting. So overall, I thought this was actually a pretty fun movie, though it's not the greatest movie of all time. So now Peter Pan, I think, is actually a pretty enjoyable film. It has a lot of great elements. The songs in here are fantastic. The animation is pretty gorgeous, and all the characters are likable. The problem with it is that I feel like it's trying to balance so much to where it's just hard to kind of like a little bit. So at the same time, I still have a lot of fun with it. I like the songs a lot, and honestly, I kind of wish I like watching the new Peter Pan from 2003, but I still do like this movie at the same time as well. Now we have Bambi, and I think that this is another enjoyable film. I think the best thing about this movie is just the way they were able to do the animation. And I say this about a lot of Disney films, but that's just because Disney is able to animate films great. Now, obviously, not every film is perfect with their animation, but with the early films, their animation is fantastic. And this is an example of how to do animation right, where the animation in this movie just feels like you're looking at paintings, where they just look like lock screens, where they just look like you could just put that as a picture on your wall. Like, it just looks fantastic. I think another, and even the music is also great. But then at the same time, you also have a bunch of these adorable, likable characters with Bambi and Thumper and Flower. And then, of course, you have the most emotional death in any Disney movie, besides Mufasa's death, is the death of Bambi's mom. And it starts with this tension of, like, Bambi and his mom running to a rock cave. You hear a gunshot. Bambi says, "I did it, mother! Mother?" And it's just silence. There's no music to emotionalize it. And he's just trying to call out his mom, and no one's there. And then the deer comes, and he's like, "Your mother can't be with you anymore. Come with me, my son." And it's so emotional. And honestly, that's a great way to do emotions. However, the reason why is it so low if I love this stuff so much, I guess you could say the story itself is not exactly the best. It doesn't really know what kind of story it's trying to be. It has the emotions, it has the great animation, it has the great music, and it has the great characters. But the story is what really struggled with it, and I really think that it was really just a kind of a disappointment, but at the same time, I still did really enjoy a lot of the stuff of it. Alright, so for me, I would say Sleeping Beauty is a pretty good film. I think that it takes some of that stuff that you love about some of the Golden Age films, but they add a bit of adventure and action into the mix that I thought made the film quite exciting, to be honest. Like, the fights between Maleficent and Prince Philip were awesome, and the animation in here is probably the best animation, I would say, of the Disney films, because it looked very different, and I really liked that kind of animation style. So I just kind of enjoyed it. The problem here, Aurora's not really the best Disney princess. She's really mostly asleep throughout most of the movie, but besides her being in the main title. But Maleficent is awesome. The songs are pretty good. And overall, it's a pretty good Disney film. Now, this is a movie that when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know if I like this very much, but then I saw it again back in school, and I have to be honest, I actually do like it. Where one of the unique things about the Renaissance era is that they found a way to tell these stories where you can like the characters, you love the animation, but you also love the songs and the story. I wouldn't really say the story was the best part of this film because it's kind of been told in many other films before, many films before and after this film was made, whether it was like Avatar or Fern Gully or something else. It tells a formulaic storyline, but what makes the movie great is the characters, the music, and the animation. The songs in here are great, and you actually do like the characters and the journey that are going on. So overall, I actually do kind of like this movie. The story itself is not the best. Now, Lady and the Tramp is a fine movie. Now, it's not exactly the best film, but there's definitely a lot of iconic moments, whether it's the spaghetti kiss, or whether it's just the little interactions between Lady and Tramp that I thought was cute and adorable. And if you have dogs, you definitely would like this movie, I'm betting. Personally, it's not my favorite Disney animated film, but it is a good film to watch if you're in the mood to watch an animated dog kids movie. Now, this is actually an interesting film because I remember when I watched The Fox and the Hound about a year ago, I was like, yeah, this is actually a pretty good film, but it's kind of like the better version of Bambi, you know? Where this movie has great animation, but at the same time, it's like they take a story where if Bambi was adopted by a human, and he had a girlfriend that mattered in the story, and his childhood friend actually becomes a villain that matters, that we knew from childhood to birth, to adulthood. And I'm like, it honestly is a better story of Bambi, except with a fox and a hound, not two deer. But honestly, I think that this film does actually kind of work. It's a basic story, nothing special, but it's a nice little film to watch. Now, Hercules is a fun movie. I think it also has another one of those strengths that the other Disney films had, where it has great songs, great music. Great characters, pretty cool animation. I guess you could say the story itself is a little bit too silly at times, where it's like, it's kind of fun, but it's also a mess at the same time. And then also, they do a lot of different Disney references, like they literally do like a whole thing of Hercules wearing scars like skin, which I'm like, how is that even possible? But overall, the only problem I really have with it is that it gets a little too silly at times. But overall, a fun time. Alright, so I'm gonna be honest with you, I actually do like this movie. Now, granted, I think first off, the reason why I liked it more was just because it's a lot shorter. They just limited it down to like 1 hour or 20 minutes or something like that. They didn't do 2 hours or 5 minutes or something like that. No, because I hated that about the first film. But they actually were able to manage to actually tell what they wanted to do, except do it in a different fashion where you could actually be entertained by all these sequences. And once again, the animation is great. The flying whales sequence, I think, is fantastic. And honestly, it's just overall a pretty good film and a good sequel. So as a Winnie the Pooh fan as I am, I do like this movie, okay? I think it actually tells a nice little Winnie the Pooh story that lets you have all these enjoyable characters and doing the fun stuff that they do, having all the nice lines. The animation is pretty cool. The big problem here is that it's just Winnie the Pooh stories, but it's a short version of it. And I feel like that's not exactly the best way to tell a story for a movie. But overall, it's a nice little story that I like. Alright, now, as the updated version of Winnie the Pooh, I think that this is a much better version just because I think that like the humor in this film actually works a lot better. Like, the scene where they're kind of going over where Eeyore's tail is, I was saying an issue, Pooh keeps thinking he's sneezing, Gesundheit, and it's so funny, and it's like, oh, you caught a cold. I'm like, this is so hilarious. And then, of course, you get awesome moments with all the other characters. And once again, the animation is pretty cool. And the fact that this is the last cartoon, this is literally the last cartoon animated film from Disney that I think they actually ever made from Walt Disney Animation Studios. And everything else after that was like 3D. So it was kind of cool about that. But once again, the way they tell the story in it, not the best. But I actually liked it a lot more than the original film from 1977. Now, The Great Mouse Detective is another film I really like. I just really like the whole detective side of this, where you have these mouse characters who are just trying to find out who's the killer of this, what happened to this father, and it just sets up for these characters that you enjoy being on this adventure on, while at the same time having fun with our villain in the mix. And it just sets up all these scenarios where you're having so much fun with it, and I really liked it, so I like The Great Mouse Detective. Now, Bold is another film that I do like. It's definitely a good movie. It basically is kind of copping Toy Story, and Toy Story is the better film, to be honest. But this movie still is pretty good. It has a pretty good animation style. It has some cool action. And the adventure is pretty fun. And it does kind of do a little different things from the Toy Story film. And I think it overall tells a good story. Especially with the way of what it means to really be a dog. I think that's kind of cool. But it's not really anything special. Now, Meet the Robinsons, I think is actually a pretty good film. I think, I'm actually a fan of time travel stories, so this one kind of connected to me a little bit, and I just really enjoyed this film. Like, it has a good animation, like, obviously, the animation's not that good in this film, but the way they told the story, the way they did the humor, the jokes, the characters, and really just the story, I thought was well done, and it had all these nice twists and turns that I thought was really cool. And overall, it just told a nice little story that I just overall really enjoyed. Now, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but when I watched this film for the very first time, I just got this sense of likeness in this film, where I just somehow really, really liked the Aristocats. There's just something about it that just makes it so appealing to me. I mean, like, it mixes in a little bit of Lady and the Tramp, mixes in a little bit of 100 and One Dalmatians, and boom, you got a good film right there, and it is pretty cool. It's pretty good. And even the other characters that get into the mix are pretty fun and likable. And so overall, I just really enjoy the Aristocats. Now, 100 and One Dalmatians, as I was just talking about it, I think is another good film where, first off, the animation is great, but at the same time, they also were able to tell this story of like dogs and like the scene where the Dalmatian dies, and he's like, I wonder, and he starts rubbing it to see if it will wake up, and it wakes up. It's such a great moment, and it's like it's like a moment of relief. And it's so good. And then even then, you even get the campiness of Disney with the villain of Cruella de Vil. And overall, it's just a nice little Disney film. A very vintage Disney film, to be honest. Now, honestly, this is a film that I just really like. First off, the soundtrack in this movie is fantastic. All the songs are fantastic and amazing. The animation does things in a different way that I really like. And then, of course, you just hate the stepmother and the stepsister so much. While at the same time, you're also able to like the mice and dog character as well as the cat character. The Prince Charming and the King, you don't really care about them, but you care about our characters with the stepmother, the evil stepsisters, the mice, the dog, the cat, and Cinderella herself. So overall, it presents a pretty good film that I enjoy and really like. Now, The Jungle Book, I think, is a very good film. Obviously, the worst thing about this film is the story. The story is just basic and simple, but what makes it so much fun are the characters and the songs. The songs are so iconic with Bare Necessities, Trust in Me, the Elephant March song, I Want to Be Like You. All the songs in here are iconic as hell. Or even the Vulture song as well. And even the characters were like Baloo, Bagheera, Mowgli, the Vultures, Kaa, King Louie, Shere Khan. I mean, all of them are so iconic, and you like all of them, and they're so much fun to see on screen. And it's so much fun to watch this, and I love it. But, obviously the story is not the best part of the film, but everything else is great. Now, Frozen 2, I thought was actually a pretty good sequel to the original Frozen. Now, obviously, the first film is one of my favorite Disney films of all time. I'm not going to say where it is on my list, but it is up there as one of my favorite films. And this film, I think, was a worthy sequel. They were able to manage to continue the story of these characters, while at the same time develop the world of Frozen, and dig deeper into the history of Arendelle, and introduce these new characters of soldiers and people that we actually never really knew about, and they were able to develop Elsa as a character, and really just have a lot more jokes with Olaf. I thought was great. So the song in here with, fear and stuff, I never really, understood that whole song. I liked how they kind of took inspiration from the 80s sort of thing with the Kristoff song. And I thought that was great, and then of course the music in here is just iconic, just like the first film, and they were able to manage to tell a great story with this second film. Now, honestly, I don't understand why everybody hates this movie. I mean, personally, the reason why I like it is because it just tells this story with these three brothers, and it really explores the worthiness of brothers as a whole. And obviously, it's another movie with another Disney movie with talking animals, but it's kind of more than that, as it explores brotherhood and brothers, and what it means to pay tribute to your totems, and what kind of man you should be, while at the same time kind of being a bear. And of course, the humor is also great, and the characters are great. The two Moose characters are also fun, but overall, it's actually a pretty good Disney film, to be honest. It is a great Disney movie, honestly. Now, Ralph Breaks the Internet, at first I was like, I don't know if I like this one more than the first one. Obviously, it's not better than the first one. The first one is one of my favorite films. But as I've rewatched it many, many times, I kept thinking to myself, this might be actually a worthy sequel to the first film. Because they explore this storyline of Ralph and Vanellope going into the internet to get a new part for Vanellope's game to fix it. And they explore this plot line where it's like Vanellope wants to explore new things, but Ralph is being a little bit too self-centered. He's kind of scared. It's the first time he's actually ever had a true friend, and it's like he's being a little too clingy, a little too over self-centered. And it's like the way they actually were able to tell that was actually kind of cool and kind of clever. And it's like you actually felt satisfied towards the end. And then, of course, all the cameos, like the first film, are amazing. The Disney princesses, come on, it's awesome. Sing Disney, my Disney.com was awesome. seeing Wikipedia, seeing IMDb, all that was great. So this is definitely a great film from Disney. Now, Tarzan is a astonishing film. I mean, first off, the music from Phil Collins in this film is amazing. I mean, he made some W songs back in this movie. But then, of course, you also got to talk about the animation. I mean, the way this movie looks is just fantastic. The way that the jungles look, and the way you see all the gorillas and monkeys up top, it looks incredible. And even then, the characters in the story is emotional, and of course, you do have the likable and funny characters, and even then you feel the intensity when characters are gonna die. You feel the emotions, you care for them, you feel the danger that they're in, and it's so awesome. And I love that when you actually feel emotional for the characters, when you feel the danger for them, and that's what a film was supposed to do. If you don't feel any emotion, you're not human. So I love Tarzan, and it's a great film. Now, Lilo and Stitch is, of course, a childhood film of mine. I used to watch this a lot when I was a little kid. But honestly, the movie is just such a great impact, where it is a kind of E.T. film, a Men in Black film, and then it mixes in a tribute to Elvis Presley. And it does it in spades, in my opinion. I mean, first off, the animation is great. The characters, I think you actually do care about them, as it focuses on this theme of Ohana. Ohana means family. Family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. One of the iconic Disney themes of all time. And then, of course, you get Stitch as just such a great and cute and likable character. While at the same time you get Pleek and Leekly, or whatever their names are, Jumba and Pleekly. All the other characters are great, and it's also kind of funny as well. There's just some funny scenes. And then, of course, the Elvis Presley soundtrack is great. And when I watched the Elvis film this year that starred Austin Butler, I didn't know this was the only film I knew of Elvis Presley. I never listened to Elvis music until I saw that film. And I was never really interested in Elvis until I actually saw the Elvis movie. So it was actually kind of a cool experience. Now, Moana is a great film. I think that, once again, like all the other films that I've just talked about right now, this is a great film. I think that this movie has some of the best soundtrack in any Disney film ever. I mean, How Far I'll Go, You're Welcome, the Giant Crab song. I mean, all these songs, the whole soundtrack of Moana hits hard. And then, of course, you also just got some beautiful animation in this film. The way Disney is able to do water, I think, is just astounding, especially in the age of the 21st century. It's just so great. But then also, you gotta talk about the characters, as you got two likable characters of Moana and Maui, where you got Maui, played by The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Luke Hobbs himself, Black Adam himself, and it was great to see him as a Disney character, as this demigod of some sorts, and their interactions were great. It was also kind of funny. I laughed at certain points in time. Every single time I watch it, I'm like, I like it a little bit more, but at the same time, I wouldn't really consider it as my top tier Disney film. But it is a great and enjoyable family film for everyone. Now, Mulan is also a film I really, really love. Personally, I'm just a fan of martial arts stories, and this is exactly what this is. Where this girl who goes into the battlefield to step in for her father, who impersonates her father to go into this battle, and the action is great, the characters are likable, the soundtrack is also fire, and they managed to create another great Renaissance film that had action you liked, characters you like, songs that you like, and the animation is also gorgeous. So it honestly is just a great film if you're a fan of martial arts war stories. So I love this film. Alright, so as the second Disney animated feature film, I personally love Pinocchio. I think it's a great Disney animated feature film. I will say this though, when it gets to the stuff when he's smoking and drinking beer while playing pool, I've never really done that like that, but I think the best parts of this movie is what it really means to be a child. And now the thing is, I've heard a lot of great things about the newer Pinocchio film that was directed by Guillermo del Toro on Netflix. I heard a lot of great things about that film, of how the animation is in that film. And I want to say, I want to go watch that movie. That's a film I want to go see in 2023. But with this film, I think it's a great film. You have the iconic scenes, the whales, the Jiminy Cricket is great. A bunch of stuff in this film is absolutely great, and I do love Pinocchio. Now, Snow White is actually a really great film. Of course, you have the iconic songs, the iconic characters. The evil queen is a terrifying villain, especially when she turns into an old hag. I'm always like, oh my gosh, she's so ugly. Like, I say that every time because, like, it's true. But I just think the movie itself is great. The problem with it is that it's a little bit too old-fashioned. That the story is so simple that I'd rather go watch other Disney films than this. You know? But it's not saying that I don't like this movie. I love this movie, but it's not exactly one I'm going to rewatch every single day. Now, I think part of the reason why I love Dumbo is because, and I think the reason why it's probably my favorite of the Golden Age era, is because it actually tells a story. Like, the movie is probably one of the shortest Disney films behind Saludos Amigos. It's like an hour and 3 minutes long, and it's able to tell such a great story of this baby elephant who is in a circus, has big flappy ears, and he gets taken from his mom, and you feel the emotion in it, while at the same time it just has a bunch of fun with all these characters. Dumbo is of course cute, but then at the same time you also have all these great animation bits, especially the pink elephant sequence, which I guess you could say is created from one of my issues that I had with the Pinocchio film. But overall, I think this is a great film from Disney. Now, The Little Mermaid is of course a beloved film. This is the film that kicked off the Renaissance era, and it personally is just a beloved film. I mean, the songs, the characters, the animation, the music, everything about this film is absolutely great. Ursula is a great villain. All the characters with Flounder and Sebastian and all of them are great. The only problem that I really have with the film is I'm not the biggest fan that Ariel's point of view doesn't change towards the end of the movie, which is my biggest frustration, because all this happened and nothing has changed. She just goes to live with Eric, which is kind of cool, but it's like, I guess you could say it's kind of an emotional sacrifice that he's like, I guess there's one sacrifice to make left. How much I'm gonna miss her. Now, I will say this, I'm excited for the live action remake Little Mermaid. Please, that movie cannot mess up, especially that they're doing a black Ariel. That's gonna be a big achievement from that. They can't mess that up. They can't mess that movie up, especially that the character is gonna be a different color race. They can't mess that up. Come on, don't mess it up. Now, this is a film that I thought was absolutely amazing. I don't know if it's because my sister keeps watching it all the time, but I just love this movie. I mean, the characters are so delightful. The songs are so re-singable. The animation is absolutely gorgeous, especially in the way it does all the voodoo magic and everything. The songs in here are so... I said the songs already. The story itself is also great, as it is a story about wishing on stars and wishing itself, and I really enjoy that storyline, so I just really love Princess and the Frog. Now, Big Hero 6 is a film that I heard lots of great things about, and I remember I watched this about 4 years ago, and this was just such a great experience. I mean, and the fact that this movie is based off of a Marvel comic book perfect for me. It's a superhero film. So you have the character Baymax, who is just likable, but then you also just have this great story of these characters. Well, it takes place in like this futuristic San Francisco, and you actually care about the characters when they die, and situations have conflict. And as you're going throughout the entire story, like it's interesting, it's cool. You feel for the characters, but at the same time, you also like the superhero action when it happens. And so overall, I liked the movie that we got, and it's a pretty clever film. Now, imagine that this was actually a Marvel film, right? They actually kept the characters the way they did from the comics, and this was the one that actually used the Into the Spider-Verse type of animation. That would be awesome, and you would see Into the Spider-Verse 4 years in the making. Just saying. That would have been really cool, but overall, a great Disney film. Honestly, when the first time I watched this film, I was like, yes, I love every second of this thing. Like, I think the thing that I loved about it is that I'm entertained, but I'm also laughing throughout the entire film, where every single scene, it's cleverly funny. You like the two characters of what's his name? Not Billy Crystal. I forgot his name. It was David Spades and Sully. I forgot the guy that plays him. Not Bill Murray. I was gonna say Bill Murray. I forgot his name. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh yeah, John Goodman. John Goodman and David Spades are amazing as these two characters. And even with John Goodman's character in the film, you actually like the relationship with his family, and even they get in on the adventure as well. And Yzma is a great villain, I have to say. The animation is fine, but it's not the most standout thing of the film. Overall, I love The Emperor's New Groove. Now, I remember when I first saw this film, I was like, what is this? I don't know what this is. I wanted to stop. But then, the music was awesome. The animation was great. The characters were so great. The story was great. Everything about this film was absolutely amazing. The only thing that brought it down for me is that I never understood the whole story with the guy wanting to love Esmeralda, but he wants to kill her at the same time. Like, I never understood that. And then also, I feel like Esmeralda should definitely have been with Quasimodo instead of that other guy. But overall, it is a great film. Now we have Encanto. At first, when I first saw it, I was like, this is pretty good, but it's not great. And then I kept rewatching it, and I understood the themes, I understood the story, and it told just another great film from Disney that I enjoyed. And plus, the animation is great, the characters are great, the songs are so re-singable, and overall, Encanto is just amazing. Now, Raya and the Last Dragon, what makes this film so special is that this is the first film that I actually saw coming back from COVID-19. Well, not coming back, but when it was happening. And I just fell in love with this film. It just told a story that I relate to, with action, adventures, and telling this sort of apocalypse world story, and having characters that you can relate to, while at the same time also just having some great action sequences and great choreographed action that I just love. So it's just a film that I absolutely love. Now, Tangled is a beloved film of mine. I love Tangled. It is such a great film. I mean, they just do so many great things with it, where they take this story of Rapunzel and they do the Disney turn on it, and they just do such a great job with it, where they make the characters likable. They create songs that you love, and the animation is pretty good. It's pretty focused, but that's not the best thing. The story, the characters, and songs you love, and I just love this song, and it's so rewatchable. Now, every single time I watch this movie, I'm like, this movie just gets better and better and better, as it creates this world of mammals, where all these creatures, great and small, live in this society where there's prejudice happening, where it's predators kind of being racist, and it's like you're going on this like buddy cop adventure, while at the same time kind of making some memes of how people are at the DMV or even the mafia. And overall, it's just a great story that I loved, and the characters and animation and songs are just great. I love Zootopia. Now, this is another great film where it's like every single time I watch it, it just gets better and better and better. Where every time you watch it, it's like it's clever, it's interesting, the animation is gorgeous, the characters are great, the story is amazing, and it's just a great film if you're a fan of video game characters, but also just a fan of Disney itself, and it's just so good. Now, Frozen is another film that I know a bunch of you hate and you find annoying, but I just love Frozen. Like, it's a great film. It just tells the story of these two sisters and creates a fun adventure where you have amazing songs, great characters, a great world, and a great story, and you actually care about the whole thing, and I just fell in love with it so much. Now we have Beauty and the Beast. I think that this is a great film from Disney. It just tells a familiar story where it's like everything about this movie is absolutely told in other stories after this, and it's just so good. You care about the relationship between Beast and Belle, you love the characters, you love the songs, you like the animation, and overall, it is just a film that is for all ages, and I love it. Now, Aladdin is a film that I think is so great. It has so many iconic songs, such a great story, such a cool adventure story, where you actually care about this character of Aladdin. And then I think the big thing on here, Jafar is also a great villain, and then of course Robin Williams' Genie is fantastic, so it just presents like a great animated film that I love. And for me, this is the best Disney animated feature film, where they just have this great animation, great characters, great story. The themes are amazing of what it means to face your past and stop running from it, and to face your past, don't run from it, learn from it, and it's great. The songs are great. I love this film so much. And that's it for all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff is in the about section over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.